The Flower Ornament Sutra, Book 2, Part 2. By the teaching which can shower the rain of all Buddha teachings, they enlightened as many sentient beings as atoms in an ocean of worlds, in every instant, by the teaching of light illuminating everywhere in the 10 directions, pervading the cosmos and showing mystical demonstrations. They enlightened as many beings as atoms in an ocean of worlds, in every instant, by the teaching of all Buddha's power of liberation manifesting the body of Buddha everywhere, filling the cosmos. They enlightened as many sentient beings as atoms in an ocean of worlds, in every instant, by the teaching of the universally good enlightening being, setting up the ocean of all sites of enlightenment with all assemblies of beings. They enlightened as many sentient beings as atoms in an ocean of worlds. In this way, throughout all universes, adapting to the mentalities of sentient beings, they caused them all to awaken. In every instant, they each caused as many sentient beings as atoms in a polar mountain, who had fallen into miserable states, to be forever relieved of their sufferings. Each caused that many sentient beings stuck in wrong concentrations to enter right concentration. Each caused that many sentient beings to be born in celestial spheres according to their inclinations. Each caused that many sentient beings to rest secure in the states of Buddha's disciples or self-enlightened ones. Each caused that many sentient beings to serve good teachers and act virtuously. Each caused that many sentient beings to set their minds on supreme enlightenment. Each caused that many sentient beings to head for the enlightening being's stage of non-regression. Each caused that many sentient beings to attain the eye of pure wisdom and see all things impartially, as does the Buddha. Each caused that many sentient beings to abide securely in the powers and the oceans of vows, and to purify the Buddha lands by means of inexhaustible knowledge. Each caused that many sentient beings to dwell in the vast ocean of Vairochana's vows and be born in the family of the Buddhas. At that time, the enlightening beings simultaneously raised their voices within the lights and spoke in verse, saying, "In the light rays, wondrous sounds are produced, pervading all lands in the 10 directions, expounding the virtues of the Buddha's children, able to enter the wondrous path of enlightenment, cultivating practices for oceans of eons, never wearied, enabling suffering beings to realize liberation, spirits never downcast, never worn out. Buddha children can well enter these techniques. Cultivating appropriate means for oceans of eons, infinite, boundless, leaving out none. Entering into all the aspects of the teachings, they constantly teach, yet their essence is silent and tranquil. The vows of the Buddhas of past, present, and future, all have they mastered, all consummated. Then do they thereby benefit all beings, as their own pure practical work. In the congregations of all the Buddhas, going everywhere throughout the 10 directions, all by the ocean of profound knowledge and wisdom, enter the Buddha's way of ultimate peace. Each of the light rays, boundless, enters inconceivable lands. The eye of pure knowledge can see it all. This is enlightening beings' sphere of action. Enlightening beings can, resting on a single hair tip, stir all lands in the 10 directions, without causing fear in the beings there. This is their stage of pure skill in means. Infinite bodies in each individual atom, furthermore manifest lands variously arrayed. Instantaneous death and birth, all do they show. Those who've attained the unhindered mind. all ages in the past, present, and future, they can show in a single instant. Knowing the body is illusory, without substance or sign, are those who realize the nature of things unimpeded. They're all able to enter the supreme practice of the universally good, so all sentient beings like to see them. Buddha children can abide by this teaching, with a great sound roaring within their lights. Then the Buddha, wishing to enable all the enlightening beings to realize the spiritual power of the boundless realm of the Enlightened One, emitted a light from between his brows. That light was called Treasury of the Light of Knowledge of All Enlightening Beings, illumining the 10 directions. Its form was like a cloud of lamps with jewel-like light. It shone throughout all Buddha fields in the 10 directions, revealing all the lands and beings therein. It also caused all networks of worlds to tremble. In every single atom it revealed innumerable Buddhas showering the teachings of all the Buddhas of all times, in accord with the differences in character and inclination of the various sentient beings. It clearly showed the Buddha's ocean of transcendent ways, and also rained infinite clouds of various emancipations, causing the sentient beings to forever cross over birth and death. It also showered clouds of the great vows of the Buddhas, and clearly showed, in all worlds in the 10 directions, the universally good enlightening beings' congregations at the sites of enlightenment. Having done all this, the light swirled around the Buddha, circling to the right, then went in under his feet. Then an immense lotus blossom suddenly appeared before the Buddha. That lotus had 10 kinds of adornments, unmatched by any other lotuses. That is to say, its stem was a mixture of various gems. Its bud was of diamond. Its petals were all the jewels in the universe. Its pistils were of fragrant gems. Rose gold adorned its base. Exquisite nets covered it above. Its radiant color was pure. It instantaneously displayed the boundless miracles of the Buddhas. It could produce all kinds of sounds. Its diamonds reflected the body of Buddha. In its sounds, it could expound all the practical undertakings cultivated by enlightening beings. When this flower had sprung up, in an instant there was, in the curl of white hair on the Buddha's brow, a great enlightening being named Supreme Sound of All Truths, together with a group of enlightening beings, as numerous as atoms in an ocean of worlds. They all came forth together, and circled the Buddha to the right innumerable times. Then, having bowed to the Buddha, Supreme Sound of All Truths sat on the flower dais, while the other enlightening beings sat on the pistils. This enlightening being, Supreme Sound of All Truths, comprehended the profound realm of reality, gave rise to great joy, and entered the sphere of action of the Buddha, his knowledge unobstructed. He entered the unfathomable ocean of the Buddha's reality body, and went to where the Buddhas were in all lands. In each hair pore of his body, he showed mystical powers. In every moment of thought, he contemplated the entire cosmos. The Buddhas of the 10 directions all bestowed their power on him, causing him to rest in all meditation states, forever seeing the Buddha's body of the ocean of qualities of the boundless cosmos, including all meditations and liberations, mystic powers, and miraculous displays. Then, in the midst of the assembly, empowered by the Buddha, he looked over the 10 directions and said in verse, "The Buddha's body fills the cosmos, appearing before all beings everywhere, in all conditions, whenever sensed, reaching everywhere, yet always on this seat of enlightenment. In each of the Buddha's paws sit Buddhas as many as atoms in all lands, surrounded by masses of enlightening beings, expounding the supreme practice of the universally good. Buddha, sitting at rest on the enlightenment seat, displays in one hair oceans of fields. The same is true of every single hair, thus pervading the cosmos. He sits in each and every land, pervading the lands one and all. Enlightening beings from everywhere gather, all coming to the enlightenment scene. Oceans of enlightening beings with virtues and lights numerous as atoms in all lands, all are in the congregation of the Buddha, filling the entire cosmos. In lands numerous as atoms in the cosmos, he appears in every congregation. This realm of knowledge of body distribution can be established in the practice of universal goodness. In the congregations of all the Buddhas, enlightening beings of supreme knowledge sit, each hearing the teaching, conceiving joy, cultivating themselves in every situation for boundless ages. Having entered the far-reaching vows of the universally good, each produces the teachings of the Buddhas in the ocean of Vairochana's teachings. They practice and master Buddhahood. What the enlightening being universally good is awake to, all Buddhas alike praise with joy. Having attained the great mystic powers of the Buddhas, he circulates throughout the whole cosmos. In all lands, as many as atomic particles, he manifests clouds of bodies, filling them all, radiating light for beings everywhere, each raining teachings suited to their minds. At that time there was another great enlightening being in the assembly, named King of Lotus Light Wisdom, contemplating all supreme truths, who, empowered by the Buddha, looked over the 10 directions and said in verse, "The profound knowledge of the Buddha enters everywhere in the cosmos. Able to operate in accord with all times, it is a clear guide for the world." The Buddhas have the same reality body. It depends on nothing, is without distinction. It causes beings to see Buddha in physical form according to their intellects. Replete with all knowledge, Buddha knows all things. In all lands, everything is evident. Buddha's bodies, lights, and physical forms are all inconceivable. Sentient beings who believe, he causes to see them according to potential. In one Buddha body, he produces infinite Buddhas. Thunderous sound pervading all lands, expounding the teaching, the deep ocean of thusness. In each hairpaw are webs of light pervading all quarters, intoning the sublime voices of Buddha, taming the hard to tame. From the Buddha's light issues deep and wondrous sound, extolling the Buddha's ocean of virtues and the practices of enlightening beings. Buddha turns the wheel of true teaching, which is infinite and has no bounds. The truth taught is beyond compare. The shallow cannot fathom it. In all worlds he manifests, fulfilling true enlightenment, in each displaying miracles which fill the whole cosmos. Each of the Buddha's bodies manifests Buddhas equal to the number of beings in every one of the numberless lands, showing spiritual powers. At that time there was another enlightening being in the assembly, called Light of Wisdom of Joy in the Truth. Empowered by the Buddha, he looked over the 10 directions and said, "Buddha's body is always apparent, filling the entire cosmos, always intoning far-reaching sound, shaking all lands in all quarters. Buddha manifests bodily everywhere, entering into all worlds, revealing occult spiritual power, according to the inclinations of beings. Buddha appears before all beings in accordance with their minds. What the sentient beings see is the Buddha's mystic power. His radiance has no bounds, and his teaching, too, is infinite. Buddha children can enter and observe according to their knowledge. The Buddha's body has no birth, yet can appear to be born. The nature of reality is like space. Therein do the Buddhas dwell. No abiding, yet no departing. Everywhere the Buddha's seen. His light reaches everywhere. His fame is heard afar. No substance, no abode, and no origin that can be found. No signs, no form. What appears is like reflections. Buddha raises clouds of teachings suited to beings' minds. With various forms of expedient means, he enlightens them and calms them down. In all worlds is Buddha seen, sitting on the enlightenment site, surrounded by a great congregation, illumining all lands. The bodies of all Buddhas all have infinite forms. Through their manifestations, be innumerable, their forms are never exhausted. At that time, another great enlightening being in the assembly, named Wisdom like fragrant flame light illumining everywhere, empowered by the Buddha, looked over the 10 directions and said in verse, "The enlightening beings in this assembly enter the Buddha's inconceivable state, each able to see all the Buddha's spiritual powers. The body of knowledge can enter the atoms of every land, perceiving bodies therein, seeing all the Buddhas. Like reflections appearing in all worlds, where all the Buddhas are, in each and every one they reveal miraculous deeds. The practice of vows of universally good they have developed, clear and pure. They are able to see in all lands Buddha's miracles everywhere. They physically dwell in all places, equanimous in all. With knowledge capable of such action, they enter the Buddha's realm. Having realized enlightened knowledge, they illumine the cosmos equally, fitting into the Buddha's pores the oceans of all worlds. In all Buddha lands they manifest mystic powers, appearing in various bodies with various names as well. They can, in an instant's time, show miracles everywhere, truly awakening at the sight of enlightenment and turning the wheel of truth. All lands, wide and vast, billions of ages inconceivable, can be shown in a moment's span, in the enlightening being's concentration. Each and every enlightening being in all the Buddha lands is in the Buddha body, boundless, without limit. Then another great enlightening being in the assembly, named Lion Stretch Wisdom Light, empowered by the Buddha, looked over the 10 directions and said, Vairochana Buddha can turn the wheel of truth in all the lands of the cosmos, filling it like clouds. In all the great oceans of worlds, in all the 10 directions, Buddha's power of mind and will turns the wheel of truth. In the vast assemblies of beings in all lands, his names are not the same. He expounds the truth according to need. Buddha's majestic powers were made by the vows of universal goodness and wisdom. In all lands, that wondrous sound reaches everywhere. Buddha's bodies are numerous as atoms in lands, showering the rain of truth everywhere, unborn, without distinction, appearing in all worlds. What he practiced in the past over countless billions of eons, in all lands, many as atoms, that wondrous sound can fully tell. Nets of lights pervade all the numberless lands. In the lights are Buddhas, teaching all beings everywhere. The Buddha body, without distinction, fills the cosmos, able to manifest physical forms, teaching according to potentials. Different to the various names of all the guides in all worlds of all times, they are spoken so all may see. The cycles of sublime teachings of all the Buddhas of past and present, all gathered here can hear. Then another great enlightening being in the assembly, named Treasury of Qualities of Wisdom of the Ocean of Truth, empowered by the Buddha, looked over the 10 directions and said, Buddha children in this assembly cultivate all knowledge and wisdom. These people can enter such gates of means. In each and every land they speak the great sound, telling of the Buddha's sphere, making it heard through all quarters. In each mental moment they observe all things, abiding in the state of true thusness. They comprehend the ocean of all phenomena. In every Buddha body, for billions of ages inconceivable, they practiced ways of transcendence and purified all the lands. In each atom they can witness all things. Thus, without obstruction, they go to all lands. To every Buddha field they go without exception. Seeing the Buddha's mystic power, they enter the Buddha's realm. The far-reaching sound of the Buddhas is heard throughout the cosmos. Enlightening beings can understand and enter the ocean of sound. Intoning subtle sounds through the eons, those sounds equal without distinction, those with knowledge of sounds can completely comprehend. Reaching stage after stage, dwelling in the stage of power, they diligently worked for eons, and such is their attainment. Then another great enlightening being in the assembly, named Universal Light of the Lamp of Wisdom, empowered by the Buddha, looked over the 10 directions and said, All the Buddhas are beyond all forms. Who can understand this truth, sees the guide of the world. Enlightening beings in meditation, the light of wisdom illumining all, can know the independent essence of all the Buddhas. Seeing the Buddha's real body, they awake to the profound truth. Observing everywhere the cosmos, they assume bodies at will. Born from the sea of blessings, abiding in the stage of wisdom, they investigate all things and cultivate the supreme path. In all Buddha lands where all Buddhas are, thus throughout the cosmos they see the real true body. In immense lands in all quarters, for billions of eons diligently practicing, they are able to roam in true knowledge of the sea of all phenomena. There is only one indestructible immanent body seen in all particles, unborn, signless, it's manifest in all lands. According to the mentalities of beings, it appears everywhere before them, showing various means of training. It turns them to the Buddha way. By the spiritual power of the Buddha are enlightening beings born. Sustained by the strength of the Buddha, they see all enlightened ones. All the guides with boundless spiritual powers awaken enlightening beings throughout the entire cosmos. Then there was another great enlightening being in the assembly, named Flower Flame Topknot with universally illuminating knowledge, who, empowered by the Buddha, looked over the 10 directions and said, In all lands uttering subtle sounds, extolling Buddha's virtues, the cosmos is all filled. Buddha has reality for his body, pure as space itself. All the physical forms that appear, he includes in this reality. If anyone has deep faith and joy and is accepted by the Buddhas, know that such a person can engender knowledge comprehending Buddha. Those with little knowledge cannot know these truths. Those whose wisdom eye is pure alone are able to see. By the Buddha's power they examine all phenomena. As they enter, abide, and leave, all they see is clear. In all things, boundless are the aspects of teaching. Developing omniscience, one enters the deep ocean of reality. Abiding in the Buddha land, appearing in all places, no coming and no going, all Buddha's teachings are thus. In the ocean of sentient beings, the Buddha body appears like a reflection. According to the differences in their understandings, thus do they see the guide. In each and every hairpore, he manifests mystical powers. The pure ones who practice the vow of universal wisdom can see. Buddha with each of his bodies teaches in every place, pervading the whole cosmos beyond the reach of thought. Then another great enlightening being in the congregation, named Inexhaustible Light of Majestic Wisdom, empowered by the Buddha, surveyed the 10 directions and said, "In each and every Buddha land sits Buddha on all enlightenment sites, surrounded by assembled groups, conquering the armies of demons. The Buddha's body radiates light, filling the 10 directions, appearing in accord with need, in forms that are not the same. Every single atom is filled with light. It's seen in all lands in the 10 directions, variously different in each. The countless various lands in the oceans of lands of all quarters, all are level and pure, made of royal sapphires. Some inverted, some sideways, some like lotus buds, some round, some square. They are of various forms. Traveling unimpeded to all lands throughout the universe, in all groups of beings, Buddha always teaches. The Buddha body is inconceivable. All lands exist therein. In all places there, he guides the worlds, teaching truth. In the subtle teaching he expounds the essence of things is undifferentiated. Based on the one real truth, he expounds various characteristics of things. Buddha, with a round, complete sound, exposes the genuine truth. According to differences in understanding, he manifests infinite teachings. In all lands we see Buddha sitting on the enlightenment site. Buddha's body appears like reflections. Its birth or death cannot be found. Then another great enlightening being in the assembly, named Wisdom Illumining the Universe, empowered by the Buddha, looked over the 10 directions and said, "Inconceivable is the form of the Buddha's subtle body. Those who see it rejoice, respecting and believing the teaching. All the features of the Buddha's body each manifest innumerable Buddhas, entering all worlds everywhere, into each atom therein. The infinite, boundless Buddhas of all oceans of lands, each in every instant display their spiritual powers. Enlightening beings of great knowledge enter deeply into the ocean of truth. Sustained by the power of the Buddha, they can know his techniques. If any be already established in the practical vows of universal goodness and wisdom, they see in all those lands the mystic powers of all Buddhas. If anyone has certain faith as well as great determination, they'll have profound wisdom and comprehend all things. Able to observe all the Buddha's bodies, form and sound unhindered, they'll understand all realms. Able to abide in the sphere of knowledge of all Buddha bodies, they'll plunge into Buddhahood, embracing the whole cosmos. As many as atoms in Buddha lands, this many lands they can cause in an instant to appear in every atom. All lands and deeds of mystic power all appear in a single land. Such is the power of enlightening beings. Then another great enlightening being in the assembly, named Unobstructed Wisdom with Vigorous Power, empowered by the Buddha, looked over the 10 directions and said, Buddha speaks one subtle sound heard throughout the cosmos, containing all sounds. The rain of truth fills everywhere. With the ocean of all languages, in all sounds according to type, in all Buddha lands, he expounds the pure teaching. In all lands are seen the miracles of the Buddha. Hearing the Buddha preach the truth, they head for enlightenment. In each atom of all lands in the cosmos, Buddha, by the power of liberation, manifests physically therein. The reality body is like space, unobstructed, without differentiation. Physical forms appear like reflections, manifesting myriad appearances. Reflections have no location. Like space, they've no substantial nature. Those whose wisdom is great will comprehend their equality. The Buddha body is ungraspable, unborn, uncreated. It appears in accord with beings, equanimous as empty space. All Buddhas in the 10 directions enter into a single pore, each showing mystic powers that the eye of wisdom can see. The power of Vairochana Buddha's vows pervades the entire cosmos, in all lands, always expounding the unexcelled teaching. The miracles shown in a single hair, even if told of by all the Buddhas for innumerable eons, could not be completely defined. As in this world, at the sight of enlightenment, by virtue of the Buddha's spiritual power, there were in each of the 10 directions as many enlightening beings as atoms in a billion oceans of worlds who came and gathered. So you should know that in each world of all oceans of worlds the same thing took place at all the enlightenment sites.